Hi, welcome to You Can Talk. I'm Ruth Finney, and I'm so very glad you clicked here because this is the channel you've been looking for. A channel solely dedicated to helping you talk your way to healthier relationships. If you're married or dating, if you have some level of family or friends or people you work with, then somewhere in at least one of these areas, you've struggled with communication. If you're ready to experience some real change with your relationships and you're willing to put some simple principles into practice, meet me here on Thursdays. Become a part of this talk community by subscribing to You Can Talk and walk with me through the user's manual as we discover some revelations in communication that you can incorporate into your life. Here, we tackle some of the most common and challenging issues we all face so you can talk your way to healthier relationships. In the last episode, we talked about how words do hurt, why we should pay caution to what we allow to come out of our mouths so we don't demean and diminish, devalue, or slay spirits and ruin trust. If you missed it, I'll put a link below for you to go back and see what our user's manual had to say about that. However, in today's episode, I will not be talking about the coronavirus. I will be discussing the principle of taming the tongue through learning how to acknowledge and accept versus defending to win. If you grew up with brothers or sisters in the house, then you understand how important it is to win when a case was presented against you to your parents in order not to suffer any consequences. Maybe you were fighting over who left the light on or the door unlocked when they left the house to go play. Or maybe you fought over who broke your mom's favorite heirloom, or why your brother or sister was the real cause because they're the ones that made you do it. Defending your words, choices, or our actions to win was crucial to our livelihood and sometimes our survival back then. However, if you didn't grow up with brothers or sisters, you still may have had to defend why you brought home a bad grade in school because the teacher just didn't like you or wasn't a good instructor. The defending to win mentality gets ingrained in us early. We learn all throughout life to look for ways to find cause outside of ourselves as to the reasons for our behaviors, our actions, or our reactions so that we don't suffer any consequences or feel bad about ourselves. Whatever the case, be it bad relationships, a strained marriage, isolation from family, business failures, a stagnant career, and sometimes just low self-worth. It's never our fault. Somehow, it's always something someone else has done or said to us that we were forced to be in this position or react in a particular manner. When we carry the defend and win mentality into our relationships, it tends to sound like this. Well, if you hadn't have said this, I wouldn't have responded with that. Or, if you would have just asked me this way, then I would have been fully honest. What about forgoing what we know to be the right thing to say or do just because the other person is choosing to do differently? We'll say stuff like, well, I'm not going to put forth my best effort if you're not. When you change your ways, then I'll change mine. If the way you're communicating is hindering trust, understanding, connection, love, and affection, in order to see improvement, all parties involved have to be willing to put in the effort. We have to stop laying blame and using the other person as the reason we can't communicate. It's easy to look outside of ourselves toward the other person to find fault, instead of acknowledging the realities of what's not working in the relationship and accepting our responsibility for our role in the reasons why. Because yes, we are part of the problem. So let's look at what the manufacturer has to say about seeking fault outside of self. Let's look at the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 3 through 5. Why do you seek the speck that's in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there's a log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Everyone has had relationship issues, but the majority of the time, we think the issues are with the other person and not us. We don't give any thought to what we may have done wrong or possibly failed to do. We may feel that the relationship is struggling because our partner won't communicate their needs to us. However, we may fail to realize that they have been trying to tell us all along. We just didn't take the time to listen or believe that what they were saying had any real value because it wasn't a concern of ours. So we dismissed it. So let's look at this example. Maybe our partner is uncomfortable around our family for one reason or another, and they've tried to express it to us, but because we feel they're overreacting, we don't take the care to ensure that when our family is present, our partner feels supported and valued and the main priority in our lives. So when family gatherings present themselves, they disappear during the event or completely opt out of it. We're angry and upset because we think they don't care, or they're just being selfish or too sensitive. We may even add fuel to the fire by excusing or justifying our family's behavior because we think it's harmless. Proverbs 21:2 says, "Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart." If this topic is speaking to you, don't feel bad because you're not the only one. Humankind has looked for ways to lay fault on others since time began. One of the earliest stories in the user's manual speaks of how sin entered the world as a result of disobedience, laying blame, and refusing to acknowledge and accept. Prayerfully, you know the story of Adam and Eve. Well, if you remember when they were confronted by our Maker about why they had disobeyed God's rules, each one of them had someone to blame. Eve blamed the serpent, while Adam blamed Eve and God himself. Let's take a look at our user's manual in Genesis 3:12-13. And Adam said, "The woman whom you gave me to be with, she gave me the fruit of the tree, and I ate." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." They refused to take responsibility for their choice to not follow what they had been told, which was in Genesis 2:16-17. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, "You may surely eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of knowledge and good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you will surely die." However, instead of acknowledging God's instructions and accepting responsibility for their disobedience, they use blame to defend their behavior and win over the acceptance of God. But they were utterly mistaken about the seriousness of their disobedience, and therefore they were all punished. As a result, sin entered the world, and now we all must fight the temptations we face every day. The temptation to not acknowledge or accept our choices and to lay blame. So how do we start to acknowledge and accept responsibility for our own words and actions in the breakdown of a relationship, rather than blaming others in the attempt to defend our words or actions, just for the sake of winning the argument? Let's look at our earlier example. When our mate came to us and said, "I'm not sure I want to attend this event with your family. I get tired of all the insults or jokes said at my expense." Well, we can respond first with this: a willingness to acknowledge the problem. It sounds like this: "I know my family makes you uncomfortable when they go into saying things about you." Second, we can acknowledge how it makes each of us feel. "Though I'm used to it, or I can ignore them more easily, I understand that it makes you feel disrespected and less than and not a part of the family." Third, we can take responsibility for our role in it. I should have addressed this from the start and not let it get out of hand. Fourth, we can apologize for all that wasn't intended. I just want you to know it is never my intention to hurt you or to allow others to hurt you if I can help it. Fifth, we can commit to taking action consistently and not just one time. I can't control every situation, but I will let my family know that you can no longer be the butt of their jokes or the subject of their insults. And if they refuse to stop, I will remind them that you are my mate, that this is not acceptable, and you have my commitment that we will leave any and every time it occurs until they get the message, if they want us to be present. Finally, follow up in a few weeks or a couple of months and do a pulse check on what each of you are feeling now. Acknowledge everything that's good. Talk about what's working and not working. Make adjustments and repeat the process when necessary. When we show the person we see them, we understand them, we accept them, and we commit to them, it builds trust and changes the nature of the relationship. If you can relate to any or all of these communication struggles and are tired of the seemingly endless cycle of communication barriers that are keeping you from the relationships you desire to have with others, then become a talker. Subscribe to UCANTALK. Select that notification bell down below and meet me here on Thursdays for the next episode where we'll be discussing who's getting the best of me. Leave a comment below and let me know what will be your tip of the week or talk-inspired practice that you're willing to commit to working on, acknowledging the problem, accepting how it makes each of you feel. Take responsibility of your role in it. Apologize for all that wasn't intended. Commit to taking action and following up for a pulse check in the near future. Whatever it is, I'm rooting for you and praying for you because you can tame the tongue, approach with compassion, listen deeply, knock down the barriers, and talk your way to healthier relationships. Let your communication be the light of God's love the world so desperately needs to hear. Thanks for watching, and if you would, please like and share this video and let's grow this talk community. I'll see you here next Thursday.